The morning that changed my life started with a text message from my bank. At first, I thought it was some kind of error. I was still half asleep, curled up in bed while my cat snored beside me, when I saw a notification telling me that access to my account had been suspended due to recent authorization changes. Within seconds, every trace of sleep disappeared. That account was not just another savings account. It held a trust fund worth more than $500,000, money my grandfather had protected for me before he died. As I stared at the warning on my screen, I had no idea that my own family was behind what was happening. My name is Tessa Whitmore, and I was 36 years old when this happened. For 16 years, that trust fund had sat untouched except for a few responsible expenses. My grandfather created it after watching my parents repeatedly borrow money from me when I was younger and conveniently forget to repay it. He saw things that I was too young to fully understand. The day he handed me the paperwork, he looked me straight in the eye and told me that certain people would eventually try to take what belonged to me. At the time, I thought he was being overly cautious. Looking back, he understood my family far better than I ever did. Instead of calling the bank first, I called my mother. Even now, I know that was a mistake. Deep down, there was still a small part of me that wanted her to act like a mother. I hoped she would be shocked and supportive. Instead, she answered immediately, which was strange because she never woke up that early. The moment I mentioned the account, her tone became cold and controlled. She calmly explained that she and my father had decided I needed help managing my finances because of stress and personal struggles. Listening to her speak felt like being transported back to childhood, when every concern I expressed was dismissed as an overreaction. Then my father joined the conversation. He spoke with the same measured voice he had used my entire life whenever he wanted to sound reasonable. According to him, they had legally obtained authority to manage my affairs because I was supposedly incapable of making sound financial decisions. He claimed they were acting for my own protection. The more he spoke, the more something inside me hardened. I was not unemployed, I was not reckless. I was a senior nurse who worked long shifts, paid my own bills, and owned my own home. Yet my parents were describing me as though I were incapable of functioning as an adult. After ending the call, I sat silently for several minutes. The fear faded and was replaced by determination. I showered, got dressed, and drove directly to my bank. During the drive, memories began connecting in ways they never had before. I thought about my older sister, who had spent most of her adult life depending on financial help from our parents. I remembered how she had recently asked me to co-sign a financial agreement and how irritated she seemed when I declined. The more I thought about it, the more convinced I became that she was somehow involved. When I arrived, the branch manager escorted me into a private office. What he showed me there made everything worse. Someone had submitted a power of attorney document giving my parents authority over my finances. My signature appeared on the paperwork, but it was not mine. Whoever forged it had done a decent job, yet subtle details gave it away instantly. Attached to the paperwork was a letter supposedly written by a psychiatrist claiming I was mentally unfit to manage money. The problem was simple. I had never met that doctor, never visited that clinic, and never received any evaluation. The branch manager continued investigating while I sat across from him trying to process what I was seeing. Then he uncovered something that changed the entire situation. Hidden inside the digital file was metadata identifying the device used to create the forged documents. The registered owner of that device was my brother-in-law. Suddenly every piece of the puzzle snapped together. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a coordinated attempt to gain access to my inheritance. The realization brought an unexpected sense of calm because, for the first time, I could see the truth clearly. The manager explained that if I chose to report the fraud, it would likely become a criminal investigation. He reminded me that the people involved were family. I appreciated the warning, but my decision had already been made. My grandfather had spent years protecting this money from exactly this kind of manipulation. If I stayed silent, I would be betraying the trust he placed in me. I signed the necessary paperwork and agreed to cooperate fully with law enforcement. A police officer arrived shortly afterward and carefully reviewed the evidence. As we talked, my phone filled with calls and messages from my parents and sister. They suddenly seemed desperate to reach me. That desperation told me everything. I warned the officer that if they showed up, they would likely try to convince everyone that I was unstable and incapable of making decisions. She listened closely and thanked me for the information. Less than an hour later, my prediction became reality. My parents walked into the bank acting exactly as I expected. My mother wore the expression of someone performing concern for an audience. My father followed closely behind, presenting himself as the calm and supportive parent. They spoke confidently about helping me through a difficult period. The officer listened without interrupting and then began asking simple questions. The story started falling apart almost immediately. Dates did not match, details conflicted. Explanations changed. With every answer, the contradictions grew harder to ignore. Eventually, the investigation exposed the entire scheme. The psychiatrist did not exist. The medical letter had been fabricated. The signatures were forged. My sister had helped create fake documents, and my brother-in-law had generated them using equipment linked directly to his home office. By the end of the day, arrests had been made. I did not watch it happen. Instead, I remained in the office completing security updates on every account I owned. While handcuffs clicked somewhere beyond the glass walls, I focused on protecting my future. The legal process lasted nearly a year. During the trial, more evidence emerged showing that this was not the first time fraudulent documents had been created. The judge described their actions as a deliberate abuse of family trust. Sentences were handed down, restitution was ordered, and the people who believed they could steal from me were finally held accountable. Sitting in the courtroom, I felt no satisfaction and no desire for revenge. Mostly, I felt relief. Today, the trust fund remains secure, but the money is no longer the part of the story that matters most. What stayed with me was the lesson hidden beneath everything that happened. For years, I confused family ties with loyalty and love. I believed that being related to someone meant they automatically deserved trust. I know better now. Real family is not defined by shared blood or shared last names. Real family consists of the people who respect your boundaries, protect your well-being, and stand beside you when there is nothing to gain. My grandfather understood that truth long before I did, and in the end, his greatest gift was not the money he left behind. It was the wisdom that finally opened my eyes.